Hello and welcome to Billy Host Sports. This week we are heading to Gulfstream Park to preview the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. It will be actually Saturday, January the 27th at Gulfstream Park. This is the preview of the feature race, the 9 furlong dirt worth $3 million. You can find videos like this one and some more of the previews that will be coming out on the Thoroughbred Horse Racing for 2024 playlist. And as always, I have the Kentucky Derby Trail playlist. You can catch all the 3-year-old action leading up to Derby 150 there as well. As always, I am really thrilled actually about this race before we get going. The field doesn't look as strong as in years past, but there are some really, really good horses that had remarkable performances in 2023. So, as always, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button for me. Set your notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. And leave a comment. Tell me what your thinking is on the early invites. The invites are officially in. I have some big news I'll have for you in just a second. So let's get going. Okay, before we get into the contenders, there was some issue with, not issue, but Saudi Crown was entered in this weekend's Louisiana Stakes, but also had an invite to this race. And I thought, well, Saudi Crown is a pretty solid horse. It's got a good chance to win that race. But Brad Cox has decided to leave him in this weekend's stakes race on the 20th at Fairgrounds. So Saudi Crown is not going to be in the Pegasus World Cup. So let's get into the 12 invites that we have so far. National Treasure, the last time we saw him was that epic battle down the stretch at Santa Anita Park in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile with Cody's Wish. He led the whole way in that race and really, really dug deep. And I mean, it was just a valiant effort down the stretch and just got nosed out at the wire, obviously. One of my favorite races I've watched over multiple times. And you can see one of the other contenders is Skippy Longstocking. That's going to be, I'll profile him in a little bit. So anyway, I thought that was a great spot, the dirt mile for the champ. The previous 2 races, he was unable to finish or maintain his lead, so to speak, in those route races. So that does give me a slight pause here going in a mile and an 1/8. But so he finished 4th and 5th, awesome again in Travers, respectively. Last time he ran route races, but in his defense, both of those races were on off tracks like Sloppy Sealed and such, so that could have affected his performance as well. I do think that he can get the distance. Bob Baffert trained, obviously, and I think he slightly outclasses like his main competition, First Mission, who we'll get to in a second, and some of the older horses. But it is of note, out of his 10 career starts, none of them have been in Florida. So this is he's probably been training, I'm sure, at Gulfstream recently, but we'll see how he takes the track. Now, Vicky Oliver has 5-year-old Trademark. He made up for his poor outing, actually, in the Fayette Stakes at Keeneland by outdueling First Mission at Churchill Downs on the dirt in the Clark Stakes. That was his probably biggest race of his career, the Grade 2 victory in his 22 starts. Also worth noting, in those 22 starts, none have been at Gulfstream Park for Trademark, but the 5-year-old is going to be probably a mid-tier contender, in my opinion. I don't know if he can run back to the form he displayed in the Clark, but we'll see. Next up, Brad Cox's First Mission, a star, entered the Clark Handicap with a warm-up race and ran a monster, but just was not able to hold off Trademark late in the stretch. So his big thing was he won the Lexington Stakes, was kind of on the Derby trail, but suffered an injury, was going to run in the Preakness, and that cost him valuable several months of training time. So it was a left hind issue, and that's just a valuable time of development for a 3 year old. So he has been breezing at the fairgrounds. Very sharp workout on January 5th. He's going to be fit and ready. As a shout out to one of my commenters, Max, who's always watching the show. Appreciate you, Max. But he said the fact that Brad Cox chose to keep Saudi, well, he said if he keeps Saudi Crown in the fairgrounds race, then that just shows you how much he likes the First Missions form. So that could be, I don't really know how the owners and trainers bark together as far as that goes. Because if I owned the horse and I wanted to run him, he's running in the race. But if he likes his chances with First Mission, then you got to like his chances, obviously. So, Saffie Joseph Jr., O'Connor, the elder statesman of the race. I believe he's 7 or 8. I can't recall. But Chilean bred, running in break, broke into the United States in stakes racing in 2022. He ran in last year's Pegasus Cup, but he was pretty much no factor, overmatched. The strength of that field surpasses the one he'll face this week, or next week, I should say, in my opinion. He recently won the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday at Gulfstream, going a mile and a 16th, which is solid on December 30th. Jockey Tyler Gaffaleone, nice job of navigating the inside rail in that race down the stretch to get O'Connor up for the win. I think his second time around in the Pegasus, he has a much better chance at victory. So we'll see. Next up, we have the Dallas Stewart trained Hoist the Gold horse I covered several times over last year. He has run versus some very classy horses, more of a mile to a sprint type of horse. He actually won the Cigar Mile wire to wire. He came in there off the Breeders' Cup Sprint where he got gut punched pretty bad by the most dominant sprinters in the country. So they decided to stretch him out at a mile. He was able to take advantage of the muddy sealed track to get out quickly to the lead, set a fair pace in hand, created pretty much an insurmountable distance for Senor Buscador, who closed for second, to catch him. He's not going to have that luxury in this race. I don't believe. There's way too much pressure up front with horses like National Treasure and O'Connor. So he's just going to have to be fast enough to compete, and we'll see what happens. But the question is also the added distance of a mile and an eighth, 2 turns, since his limit has been mostly a mile recently in most of his races last year. So I'll be interested to see how that one goes. Now, New York Traffic, a 7-year-old trained by Saffie Joseph, who has 3 invites. This one has just over $1 million in earnings in 24 starts. So not making a whole lot of money, considering like somebody like National Treasure has 10 starts and has almost 1.5x the earnings. But anyway, he had his best season as a 3-year-old in the 2020 Kentucky Derby year. If you do recall, that was the year of COVID-19 where we pushed the Kentucky Derby back to September. He was able to string together 3 straight second place finishes, which was the Grade 2 Louisiana Derby on the normal trail, then the Matt Winn Stakes, and then lost by just a nose to the actual eventual Derby winner, Authentic, in the Grade 1 Haskell. So, unfortunately, I think that was his peak, as he finished 8th and 9th in the Derby and Preakness that year. Didn't do much as a 4-year-old, but came back at 5, won back-to-back stakes, and then finished 4th in the Grade 1 Vanderbilt. You fast forward to December, this last December, he ran pretty well in the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday that was won by O'Connor. He was in good position rounding the turn, but for some reason the horse tries to nudge his way outside or something, and he has to steady him not to make contact. So he lost valuable ground and probably the race, because he was looking pretty good there. But really, really a beautiful looking gray horse. So I'll be kind of rooting a little bit for New York Traffic, and might be one that I'll save for some exotic love. All right, next up, dynamic. One is Todd Pletcher's 6-year-old, 4 wins and 14 starts. He was on that Derby train in 2021, but derailed en route to a horrible 18th place finish. But he did bounce back after that to win the Curlin Stakes, but came off of that to finish DFL in the Travers. So kind of up and down. Came back in his 4-year-old season, was a solid contender, hitting the board for 4 straight races, uh, winning back to back, including Grade 2 Suburban at Belmont Park. Then he was shelved for nearly 16 months before a return last month at Gulfstream. 1 turn mile allowance and did not look very good, didn't quite fire, but in his defense, he's more of a closer, and the 1 turn mile just is not kind of his not the his cut. So maybe he'll do better, a little bit more training leading up, going 2 turns. But really, really super long shot there, in my opinion. Another actual Todd Pletcher trained horse is Grand Aspen. This one was kind of difficult to break down for me. 2 awful looking starts as a 3-year-old, and then came back at 4 to break his maiden, adding an allowance win at Churchill Downs. Back around Thanksgiving, he got his first taste of stakes competition. Was a second runner-up to O'Connor in that Grade 3 Harlan's that we've been discussing on that he's one of 3 horses in this invite that ran in that race just last month. But this was a race winning type of performance, in my opinion, down the stretch. He was just outfinished on the inside by an older horse with 3 times as many starts in his career. So I think that holds some value to me. For one, it's Todd Pletcher. And for number 2, obviously he was right there with O'Connor, who I believe is garnering some buzz coming into this race. So next up is it's kind of a favorite, one of my favorites over last year, Senor Buscador, looking to close late, always. Guidance of Todd Fincher. Very nice rally in the Grade 2 Cigar Mile, but like I said, he wasn't able to catch up with Hoist the Gold because it was just too far out ahead. But his Grade 1 efforts in the Awesome Again and Pacific Classic were pretty solid. I think that's a step class ahead of a lot of these races. His ability to rally late, no matter what the pace scenario is, whether it's fast or slow, it seems to be an asset of his. So he could, I see him rounding out some exotics, trifecta, possibly exactas, the way he runs. So another one of my favorites from last year is Il Miracolo, trained by Antonio Sano. And well, you hear this. Sired by Gunrunner, well, obviously that's what I like about him a lot as well. 16 career starts in 15 months, coming into his 4-year-old debut. We really don't know how he's going to react coming in off a layoff because he's never had one. He began his career September 2022 and raced once a month up to his 3rd place finish in that Clark Stakes just last November 24th at Churchill. He's shown improvement, especially in his last few leading up to that Clark Stakes, nearly every race of his 3-year-old season, but kind of lacks the speed to run up front. So I do believe he's kind of switched strategies somewhat as far as what I can see off the pace running strategies. That 3rd place finish in the Clark was 5.5 lengths behind First Mission, but this was the one I chose to take a good look at. Was this 2nd place run in the Grade 2 Hagyard Stakes at Keeneland in October? Really impressive the way he battled for positioning entering the stretch, and the fight he showed busting up between horses all the way to the wire is a credit to his sire Gunrunner, in my opinion. So I kind of like a puncher's chance for Il Miracolo, who just seems to run on, doesn't have the speed to maybe be an upfront guy like a National Treasure, but if he can just keep up steady with the pace, just off, I think with his ability to hang tough in the stretch, might be able to get a piece. All right, Skippy Longstocking, 3rd invitee, like I said, Safi Joseph, junior trainer. well-seasoned son of Exaggerator, making his 5-year-old debut after a third place finish behind Cody's Wish in National Treasure in that Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, like I was telling. But the telling part about that race, which is because I think Skippy is chasing National Treasure in second throughout the race, but it looks like he's doing all he can just to keep pace. He doesn't show, it doesn't appear to show any ability to make a move on a National Treasure to pass his rival. And as they hit the stretch, Cody's Wish just bullies his way right on by. And but he does deserve some credit, I think, in that race. Very strong field. He was the only one within shouting distance of anybody else in third place. So that's a credit to him. And then just real quick, I just wanted to show you this Charlestown Classic. Was it just an absolute dream trip for Skippy? He got out to the lead and set some extremely mundane and mediocre fractions. Nobody put any pressure on him, including one O'Connor, who is a late runner himself. So O'Connor basically had no shot to catch Skippy down the stretch, and he was able to pull away for the victory convincingly. So that leads us to our last invite. Like I said, Saudi Crown is not going to go. So the next up on the reserves is Crouppy in order of preference. So I'm going to profile Crouppy, and then we're going to get out of here. Crouppy is trainer Todd Pletcher. He gets to send his back-to-back stakes winning 4-year-old in because of Saudi Crown's. So he's sired by Curlin. Late developer, though, it took him 8 starts to break his maiden, but after doing so, won 3 of his next 4. The latest was on New Year's Eve at Aqueduct in the Queens County Stakes. Overcame some early traffic trouble. He had to steady Eddie, checked up because somebody almost clipped him, but then he ends up recuperating, circling 4 wide into the stretch, and shows a really, really nice late burst in the closing seconds to get up in time. So, my initial impressions on the race. I'm starting to side with obviously the most impressive performances on the biggest stages. So you got National Treasure at the top of the list because he had 2 epic races down the stretch. He's 1 for 1. He lost to Cody's Wish, and then he defeated Blazing Sevens in the Preakness. So grade 1s, dominant races. You got to love that. Next, I do like First Mission. I'm going to give him points. Well, I'm not going to deduct points for his lack of starts and major races because of the 5 months or so he lost in training last summer. The Lexington Stakes was an impressive win at Keeneland. It was an impressive run in the Clark Stakes. So he's a strong win contender, obviously. Hoist the Gold, I like, because he's faced top level competition. His only question mark is the distance. Can he hold up going 1 mile and an eighth? Hard to say. Then it's pretty close between O'Connor and Il Miracolo. My heart says Il Miracolo. I really like the effort both of those horses exhibited at that race at Keeneland I showed you in the Hagyard. But you know what's going to happen with the 2-month freshening with Il Miracolo. I could only imagine if he comes out with a burst of energy, he could really, really be in this race and pull off a major upset. You never know. 5 workouts at Gulfstream leading up to it. A big 7 furlong romp on January 5th. So trainer Antonio Sano is gearing him up. Then you have Senor Buscador, who his closing style does not set up for this race well. But if he can get that kind of pace set up like he did in the San Diego and break mid-turn like he did and rally, he might be able to get there. So the pace is going to dictate that. But that should cover everybody that's going to be in this race. We'll know more as the official entries get announced, and we'll do a update video, who's in, who's out, things of that nature, past performances and all that, maybe a little betting strategy. So be on the lookout for that. And I appreciate you guys watching, saddling up with old Billy Ho. Until next time, we'll see you soon.